Hey, happy Innovation Week. This is Glennertown Square. Glennertown Square is what some people call a dementia village and what others call a reminiscence therapy center. It's a 9,000 square foot town inside a 20,000 square foot industrial building in Chula Vista, California, and it's designed to look like 1950s San Diego. There is a pub, there's a diner, there's a city hall, and there's a stretch of AstroTurf that serves as a community gathering space. Alzheimer's patients visit Glenner during the day to be transported back to a time when they were between the ages of 10 and 30, which is when research shows our strongest memories are formed. As patients explore the facility and they talk to therapists, they find comfort because they're recalling their memories with confidence and they're regaining the ability to put their lives into perspective. Reminiscence therapy itself was born in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. This is psychiatrist Dr. Robert Butler. And he believed that reviewing your life with satisfaction or reminiscing was an important part of psychosocial development in late adulthood. This kind of therapy might include storytelling or interacting with personal artifacts, listening to music, watching film clips. But until the 1960s, reminiscence was sometimes thought to be a sign of mental deterioration, and there's still a stigma today. You might see someone elderly talking about their youth a lot and wonder about their well-being. But in the healthcare realm, reminiscence is seen as a pathway for improving mood and cognition. Of course, nostalgia and reminiscing aren't just for the elderly. One theory is that for all of us, remembering our past helps us compare who we are today to who we've been. It's part of our need to understand our authentic self and what we want in the future. And sometimes that can be painful because while we're thinking about what we've gained, we are also thinking about what we've lost. And still we cannot help ourselves. That's why there are whole industries built around nostalgia. Everything from souvenirs to Stranger Things. There's a lot of money to be made by banking on the human need to reminisce and probably idealize the past. Technology taps into that hunger for nostalgia, but it can also warp our understanding of our past. The social part of social media, for instance, makes this tricky. There's a writer named Roberto Simonowski, and he says that when you share a Facebook memory and your friends comment or like it, they're assigning a specific value to the various signs of your life and determining your gaze at it. And speaking of warping the past, while places like Glennertown Square do have therapeutic benefits for some people, we have to acknowledge that this facility and others like it cater to a very specific vision of mid-century America, which is white and middle class. So where a bright and shiny 1960s diner might be therapeutic for some, it might erase the history of others. So the quest continues for tools that can honor individual life experiences. MyHeritage.com has this deep nostalgia feature which uses AI to animate family photos. And the promise of this kind of tech is a digital immersion in the past that's really personalized, highly personalized. That was my grandmother, by the way. When Facebook bought Oculus in 2014, Sarah Rothberg, she's an artist and a tech researcher, she started thinking about the impact that technology could have on personal memories. So she created her childhood home in a VR environment using diaries and home movies that were taken by her father, who suffered from dementia. She really liked the blockiness of the space because it reminded her of the limits of VR in the 1990s, which just added to the nostalgia. But she said that when she was walking across the house's parquet floor, she remembered that there'd been a loose floorboard at the end of the hallway. And for her, that weird missing detail made the limitations of the technology clear. Which brings me weirdly to French literature. The most well-known example of reminiscence in Western literature comes from Marcel Proust. In Swann's Way, the narrator tastes a madeleine that's dipped in tea. Madeleines are those yummy little French sponge cakes that look like shells. And it sets him off on a reminiscence of his childhood. And here's the trick. The sight of the madeleine does nothing. It's when he dips it in the tea and he tastes it. It's the taste and the smell and the immersion of all of his senses that causes a memory of his aunt to suddenly reveal itself so powerfully that the entire rest of the novel bursts forth. He says, "The sight of the little madeleine had recalled nothing to my mind before I tasted it." So, can we engage all five senses for a more personalized experience? This is a prototype of a multisensory mask that attaches to a headset and simulates tactile sensations and hundreds of smells like lavender and burning rubber. Unfortunately, the FDA has classified this as a vaping device, so they're facing some legal and logistical hurdles, but someday. The University of Chicago is also experimenting with something called temperature illusions. It uses the nose and the trigeminal nerve to make a user feel warmer or cooler using odorless chemicals, like using eucalyptol to make you feel cold. And this might also be a replacement for the use of heat lamps or thermoelectric coolers that can eat up a lot of power. So how will we personalize these experiences quickly? Imagine something like a really, really advanced version of the holodeck from Star Trek, where you describe a place from your memory that you don't necessarily have a photograph of, and you're able to instantly enter a virtual world that approximates the look and the feel and the sounds and the atmosphere, etc. In 2018, 2 engineering students wanted to see if they could automatically translate a person's description of their childhood neighborhood to a small virtual environment. So they used Google Speech to Text and Meaning Cloud's topics extraction API to find keywords that could be converted to really primitive representations of what the user described, like basic blocks of color for houses and streets. And machine learning studies at UC San Francisco are translating brain activity into sentences with really low error rates. And Facebook has been pointing to these studies as part of their work on a non-invasive brain-computer interface device. So think about putting on a simple device like this and then just typing by imagining yourself typing, or coding an entire virtual world just by thinking about it. It's way off, way in the future. For now, healthcare tech startups are trying out VR reminiscence therapy in nursing homes. And like I said, it's hard to gauge the full extent of the benefits, but this tech is creating emotionally evocative experiences, which are so needed for people who are afraid of looking at the same 4 walls every day. So let me leave you with this. There are an estimated 47 million people worldwide with dementia, and that number is going to grow to 75 million by 2030. So it's important for us to consider how tech is going to take care of people as individuals, creatively, ethically, and more humanely. Thanks, and happy Innovation Week.